It's been a pretty relaxing summer for me. I've been doing things like taking care of the chickens you see behind me, doing a little bit of gardening, working on the video editing computer I use for these segments, which is giving me fits after I rebuilt it. Here's a little tip. I do not recommend having a computer power supply arc and fail about 2 feet from your head. Not fun. And I also started doing these segments. And I'm telling you this to underscore one thing. I have not been driving this summer. This whole summer, the only passengers I've had in my car have been my wife and a couple of friends from church who I took to the airport early one morning in a monsoon. Now, the reason why is one of the things that I'd like to talk about across a few segments, and that's requirements for your rideshare drivers. You know, the things we have to do to get behind the wheel. And in this case, it's a background check. A few months ago, my annual background check, we get them every year, my annual background check came up and I was deactivated from Lyft and Uber. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the reasons why. All the background checks for Lyft and Uber, and also for a few other companies like Roadie, which is a gig-based delivery company, they all go through a company called Checkr. Now, the Checkr background checks done by these gig companies center on two main areas: criminal background checks and motor vehicle records. So, want to get it out of the way right up front. Nothing on my criminal record. You don't have to worry that, I'm a stalker or a sex offender or anything like that. Things like that probably would just immediately deactivate a driver, no questions asked. So, the other side is what got me, and that's the driving record. So, first off the top, one thing, totally admit to, my fault, got one speeding ticket this year. It was in a municipality near here that some of us joke has the death penalty for speeding, which, mixed feelings about that. Of course, I'm disappointed I got a ticket there, but at the same time, totally my fault. They were running radar in a residential area, which I support. Residential areas, kids, you don't want people speeding through an area where there are kids. But it was at a time of day when kids should have been in school, so that, I don't feel I was too much of a danger in that area. But again, totally my fault. Was rushing to pick up a passenger, wasn't paying attention. So that counted against me on the driving record. But a speeding ticket alone isn't going to deactivate you from these services. The thing that I think was sort of, the camel that broke the straw's back, or something like that, was one of 3 wrecks I have on my record. So let's talk about those wrecks. None of them were serious. There were no injuries in any of them. And here's another interesting thing. Not a single one of them was ruled to be my fault. In one of them, I was sitting in construction traffic taking a passenger to the airport, and I got mildly rear-ended. But rear-ended enough that I had to have my rear bumper replaced. Uber and Lyft both tell you cannot drive if you have visible damage to your car. Keep that in mind next time a driver rolls up. Take a look at their car. It's not really enforced. But, okay, the second one, I was taking something to my wife at work. She forgot something. I was waiting to make a left turn. Someone breezed through a red light and took off my front bumper. I just hope the cop who looked at the video enjoyed the bagpipe music that was playing on my car stereo at the time. The third one, I was waiting for a passenger, sitting still in a parking lot, and someone backed into me. In that case, I had to have my driver's side rear door replaced. So, in the grand scheme of, and the video was interesting, you can tell I'm definitely standing still, and then the car starts rocking, and I think I said a very unpleasant word. But anyway, back to the heart of the matter here. Again, no serious damage in any of them, no injuries, and I was not at fault. So, I'm thinking what's happening here is Lyft and Uber are not looking at basically the context of the wrecks. All they're looking at is the numbers. All they see is 3 wrecks, over, I think the records go back 3 years. And they say, that's too much, you're done, until they cycle off your record, which I'm thinking is going to happen in a couple of weeks. I'll have 2 of them off my record, and I can hopefully apply for a new background check and get back on the road. That's my hope. So I mentioned mixed feelings about where I got the speeding ticket. I also have mixed feelings about the way Uber and Lyft look at the driving record and deactivate people. Yes, I'm upset that 3 wrecks that were not my fault have kept me from being able to earn a living right now. But at the same time, I can kind of understand their position. This is essentially an industry where you're hauling people. There are huge liability issues, huge. And they have to look out for the safety of their passengers. So in that sense, I can understand the idea that they're going to deactivate a driver who has a certain number of wrecks, even if they weren't that driver's fault, because that still poses a risk for passengers. I get that. I understand that. So much as I'd love to be out there earning a living right now instead of sitting here talking to all of you, I'm kidding. I would still love to be sitting here talking to you. And when I do get driving again, I do plan to continue these segments. But much as I would love to be back out on the road right now, I understand why I'm not. And, you know, it's a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow because I wasn't at fault in those 3 wrecks. But again, passenger safety, I understand the reasoning behind it. So like I said, when I do get back on the road, I look forward to continuing these segments. I look forward to telling you more stories from the road. If you want to hear those stories, if you want to hear more about what we drivers have to go through just to be able to drive passengers, click on the little wheel down there, hit subscribe. I'd love to tell you more. And as always, thanks for watching.